Before this video starts, I just want to tell you, Happy Easter, everyone! Woodbridge, New Jersey, 1951. The site of a terrible train crash where a train speeds over a bridge and crashes in Woodbridge. The crash resulted in the deaths of 85 people and left many injured. Today we're going to be explaining what happened in this disaster. This is the story of the 1951 Woodbridge train disaster, also known as the wreck of the Broker.
Woodbridge Township is a municipality of 103,639 people, as of 2020, 35,758 residents in 1950, in the far northeast of the USA, located in the federal state of New Jersey, 32.5 km/20 miles southwest of New York City, New York, and 101 km/63 miles northeast of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, both measurements in linear distance. Woodbridge received rail service via the Perth Amboy and Woodbridge Railroad, which today is part of the North Jersey Coast Line, a 168 km/105 miles electrified main line.
But however, in 1951, Woodbridge, New Jersey was the site of one deadly train disaster.
Pennsylvania Railroad, PRR, train number 733, was an express passenger service from Jersey City to Bayhead, both located in the state of New Jersey, and consisted of 11 large express passenger cars pulled by PRR Class K4 number 2445. The Class K4 was a heavy passenger steam locomotive introduced back in 1914, measuring 25.45 m/83 feet in length at a weight of 234.6 metric tons including the pull tender. The K4 had 3 driven axles, accompanied by 2 leading and 1 trailing axle, and pulled a 4-axle tender carrying up to 15 metric tons of coal. The type had a power output equivalent to 2,450 kW/3,286 HP and could reach 140 km per hour, 87 miles per hour. Locomotive number 2,445 had been built in 1917. On the day of the accident, number 2,445 was under the command of 57-years-old Mr. Fitzsimmons, with Mr. Bishop working as the conductor. The identity of the fireman is unknown. PRR train number 733 departs Exchange Place Station at the time the PRR's main train station in Jersey City at 5 p.m. on the 6th of February, 1951. The train was unusually crowded to workers striking at the nearby Jersey Central Railroad, filling the 11 passenger cars with over 1,000 passengers. A notice had gone out to train crews a week prior, informing them that trains would be directed onto a temporary track and wooden bridges in Woodbridge starting on the 6th of February at 1:01 p.m. to allow construction of an overpass on the new New Jersey Turnpike. The temporary track was to be navigated at no more than 40 km per hour, 25 miles per hour, rather than the usual 97 km per hour, 60 miles per hour speed limit at Woodbridge. Mr. Bishop, conductor on number 733, had reminded Mr. Fitzsimmons, the driver, referred to in the USA and Canada as the engineer, of the restriction ahead of the train's departure. Mr. Fitzsimmons fell into long-standing routine over the following 40 minutes, leading to the train approaching the construction site at just over 80 km per hour, 50 miles per hour. He had simply forgotten about the construction site. Mr. Bishop realized that they were traveling at excessive speed around 5:40 p.m. and attempted to reach the emergency brake cord hanging in the train cars, but was unable to do so in the overcrowded interiors. PRR train number 733 entered the temporary tracks on the wooden bridge at 5:43 p.m., going twice as fast as it was meant to.
And then, all of a sudden, disaster struck. The train derails and flies off the bridge.
The tracks shifted under the heavy locomotive, forcing the rails apart as the train went around a tight left-hand turn. PRR number 2,445 almost made it around the turn before falling over and sliding down the embankment to the adjacent road, with the first 8 passenger cars derailing behind it as the track gauge widened below their wheels. Cars 1 and 2 fell onto their sides and slid to a stop, while 3 and 4 ran into each other as they became airborne and went flying down a 7.9 m/26 feet high slope. The derailment had destroyed a wooden bridge under the train, causing cars 5 and 6 to end up hanging above a road underpass, with 7 and 8 derailed but somewhat upright behind them. Most direct fatalities occurred in cars 3 and 4, who lost significant survival space in their collision and simultaneous rollover. In total, eventually, 85 people would be listed as deceased, with over 500 suffering injuries in what turned out to be the deadliest peacetime rail accident in U.S. history. The crash shook the ground and shattered several windows on surrounding buildings. The accident occurred in a heavily populated area during the day, which meant a lot of residents were around to aid the survivors almost as soon as the accident occurred, bridging the minutes until professional responders arrived. While most fatalities had occurred in the forward cars due to destruction of the car body and/or impacts with the interior as cars rolled over, responders also reported finding dead or dying passengers in the underpass below cars 5 and 6, which were hanging from the remains of a wooden bridge. Faced with injuries not matching ejection from the train, the responders soon arrived at a horrifying conclusion. A small number of passengers had survived the derailment and found themselves in damaged cars, dangling off a damaged bridge. Looking out the door, they saw what they assumed to be a river below and jumped, not knowing that they were looking at rain-soaked asphalt in the fading light. A fatal misinterpretation. Mr. Fitzsimmons survived the accident in the overturned locomotive, being pulled to safety by responding local residents. When questioned by the police, he initially insisted that he had obeyed the 40 km/h 25 mph speed limit, pointing to the notice to rail workers his conductor had reminded him of less than an hour prior to the accident. He's quoted to have claimed, "I slowed down when I saw the yellow warning light." Investigators couldn't find any sign of flawed construction of the temporary track, and, seeing what had happened along with the degree of destruction, soon zeroed in on excessive speed as the cause of the accident. In fact, Mr. Fitzsimmons' claim about the warning light is what brought investigators on track to find the cause. Simply because there weren't any, the PRR's standard procedures saw a notice to rail workers as sufficient, choosing not to install extra signals at such sites to remind train drivers of temporary speed limits. Fitzsimmons eventually admitted that he knew there weren't any, he had just been sure he did everything right. He was an experienced train driver who had driven trains past the site many times before, and while no intentional speeding could be proven, it was assumed that he had just fallen into routine and forgotten about the temporary speed limit. Unfortunately, investigators announced that Mr. Bishop likely could have reached and pulled the emergency brake cord, at least significantly reducing the train's speed, had the train not been as overcrowded. He tried to do everything right, but, due to circumstances beyond his control, couldn't avoid the tragedy. Immediately after the accident, the PRR started utilizing warning signals at temporary slow-speed zones, installing several $1 million worth of them within a few weeks. 84 individuals employed by the PRR were charged with manslaughter, but within 2 years all proceedings were ceased when it came out that the trials would cost the county over $2 million, $23.4 million, 21.37 million euros today. Another $75 million, $877.3 million, 801.2 million euros, worth of lawsuits by survivors and relatives were settled out of court, costing the PRR an undisclosed sum. Mr. Fitzsimmons remained employed with PRR until his retirement in 1953, but he was never put in command of a train again, being kept busy with other tasks instead. He passed away shortly after the accident's 25th anniversary, at 82 years old. A lot of the accident's survivors initially remained in contact, starting the Survivors Club. The group gathered at the site on the first anniversary of the accident, witnessing the head of the club, Mr. Hauk, toss a wreath from the rear car of the 5:10 p.m. service, the train which replaced number 733's connection as it passed the site. The PRR Class K4 was retired in 1958, with only 2 of the 425 units made surviving to this day in museal but non-working condition. The PRR as a whole merged with the New York Central Railroad in 1968 to become the Penn Central Transportation Company before disappearing during the formation of Conrail in 1976. For decades, the only physical trace of the accident were cracks in the concrete underpass of Legion Place right where it merges with Fulton Street. New Jersey Transit finally unveiled a bronze plaque dedicated to the accident in 2003. Located in a small grassy area 382 m/1,253 feet linear distance north of the site, a second memorial was unveiled in 2013. Located 650 m/2,134 feet linear distance northwest of the site in a park. This second memorial provides more extensive information along with 2 photos of the wreckage and a newspaper headline. Only a small black historical marker stands at the site of the accident today, briefly summarizing what happened. The marker refers to the train as the broker, a nickname it gained due to the high amount of brokers and stock exchange workers usually traveling on it. Nowadays, modern train control systems make accidents caused by excessive speed relatively rare, and no railroad would set up a temporary speed limit with nothing but a brief note to tell crews about it. Crash safety in train cars has also advanced massively since the 1950s, making accidents more survivable. As for those who jumped to their deaths thinking their train car was about to plunge into a river and take them down with it, sadly nothing can really be done there technologically. Confusion, fear and probable panic can easily lead to irrational or simply rushed decision-making, which can have terrible consequences.
It's been 74 years since this horrible crash, and to this day, the Woodbridge train disaster still remains one of the deadliest train crashes in New Jersey's history.